There's a terrifying truth about evil. It rarely looks evil. It doesn't always wear a cruel face. It doesn't always scream, threaten, or attack. Sometimes evil smiles. Sometimes it speaks softly. Sometimes it helps you, while quietly planning your destruction. And that is what makes it dangerous. Niccolo understood this better than almost anyone in history. In his work, he revealed something deeply unsettling about human nature. The most dangerous enemies are not the ones who openly hate you. They are the ones who hide their intentions behind charm, loyalty, and kindness. Think about that. What if someone around you is not who they pretend to be? What if the smile they give you is a mask? What if their kindness is only a strategy? Most people believe evil announces itself. It doesn't. Hidden evil is patient. It studies you. It learns your weaknesses. It waits. And when the moment is perfect, it strikes. By then, it's already too late. Today, we are diving into 5 chilling behaviors that reveal hidden evil, behaviors Machiavelli would immediately recognize. Pay close attention. Because after this video, you may never look at people the same way again. And I need to warn you. Some of these behaviors may remind you of someone in your own life. A friend, a colleague, a relative, maybe even someone you trust deeply. If that happens, don't ignore it. Your instincts notice things long before your mind accepts them. Now let's enter the darkness. The first chilling behavior. They study your weaknesses in silence. This is one of the clearest signs of hidden evil. A manipulative person does not rush. They observe. They listen carefully when you talk about your insecurities. They notice what hurts you. They notice what triggers you. They notice what makes you emotional. At first, this attention feels flattering. You think, wow, this person really understands me. But here's the dark truth. They may not be trying to understand you. They may be mapping you. Like a hunter studying prey. They learn your fears. Maybe you fear abandonment. Maybe you crave approval. Maybe you feel insecure about your appearance, intelligence, or success. A person with hidden evil doesn't judge these weaknesses. They store them. Why? Because information is power. And power gives control. Machiavelli understood that to control people, you must understand what drives them. Fear, desire, need, attachment. Once someone knows these things about you, influencing you becomes easier. Watch carefully for people who ask deeply personal questions too early. They may say things like, what hurts you the most? What are you scared of? What's your biggest weakness? Sometimes these questions come wrapped in warmth. But hidden evil often uses intimacy as a weapon. The scary part? They don't always attack immediately. Sometimes they wait months, even years. Then during conflict, they suddenly weaponize everything you once trusted them with. Your pain becomes their tool. Your secrets become ammunition. Your vulnerability becomes leverage. And when that happens, you realize something horrifying. They were never listening to heal you. They were listening to control you. That's why truly dangerous people can feel incredibly patient. They know rushing creates suspicion. Patience creates dependency. And dependency creates power. So ask yourself this, is there someone in your life who seems unusually interested in your vulnerabilities, but strangely absent when you actually need emotional support? That difference matters. Because caring people use your weaknesses to protect you. Evil people use your weaknesses to own you. Now the second chilling behavior is even darker. They create confusion around reality. This is where hidden evil becomes psychological. These people don't always attack directly. Instead, they distort your perception. Slowly, subtly, strategically. They make you question your own memory, your own judgment, even your own sanity. Imagine this. Someone insults you. You confront them. They immediately respond, I never said that. You are imagining things. You are too sensitive. That never happened. At first, you resist. No, I know what I heard. But they remain calm, confident, convincing. And because they show no guilt, your brain starts doubting itself. Maybe I misunderstood. Maybe I'm overreacting. Maybe I'm the problem. That is the trap. This psychological manipulation is terrifying because it attacks the foundation of your mind. Reality itself. Once someone can control what you believe is real, they can control you. Machiavelli knew perception often matters more than truth. That idea becomes terrifying in the hands of manipulative people. Because they understand something most people don't. Humans hate uncertainty. When reality feels unstable, we seek certainty from whoever appears strongest. And guess who provides that certainty? The manipulator. The same person causing the confusion becomes the person you depend on for clarity. That is dark psychological control at its finest. They break your confidence in yourself. So you start trusting them more than your own instincts. And once that happens, you become easy to lead, easy to deceive, easy to dominate. Pay attention to people who repeatedly make you feel mentally foggy after conversations. You enter feeling clear. You leave feeling confused. That pattern is not random. Sometimes confusion is the strategy. And what comes next is perhaps the coldest behavior of all. The third chilling behavior. They remain emotionally cold during your pain. This one is deeply disturbing because it reveals something many people never want to believe. Not everyone feels your pain. Some people understand suffering, but feel nothing. That's what makes them dangerous. Most normal people cannot stay completely calm when someone they care about is hurting. If they see tears, fear, heartbreak, or desperation, something inside them reacts. Empathy activates. Even if they don't show it openly, they feel it. But hidden evil often lacks this natural response. In fact, sometimes your pain doesn't bother them at all. And in darker cases, they enjoy it. Think about someone who hurts you with words. You become emotional. Your voice shakes. Your eyes fill with tears. Yet they remain calm. Not peaceful calm. Cold calm. Their face barely changes. Their tone stays controlled. Almost as if they're observing an experiment. Why? Because to them, emotion is data. Your breakdown tells them what affects you most. They watch. They analyze. They learn. Machiavelli wrote extensively about power and fear. He understood that fear is one of the strongest tools of control. A person with hidden evil often uses emotional pain to establish dominance. They want to see, how much can I push? How far can I go? When do they break? And once they find your breaking point, they know exactly how to control future situations. This doesn't only happen in toxic relationships. It happens in friendships, families, workplaces, even leadership. Watch for people who seem strangely unaffected after deeply hurting someone. No remorse, no discomfort, no genuine regret, only calculation. Even more chilling. Some will fake empathy. They'll hurt you first, then comfort you after. Read that again. They become both the source of pain and the source of relief. This creates emotional dependency. Your nervous system becomes trapped. Pain, relief, pain, relief. Eventually, you become addicted to their approval. That cycle is psychological imprisonment. The scariest evil isn't always violent. Sometimes it's emotionally surgical, precise, controlled, intentional. And if you've ever felt drained after dealing with someone like this, there's a reason. Your instincts were detecting danger. Now the fourth behavior reveals hidden evil in an even more subtle way. They weaponize charm. This is where many people get fooled. Because we naturally associate charm with goodness. Someone charismatic, funny, confident, smooth with words. They walk into a room and instantly attract attention. People trust them quickly. They know exactly what to say, exactly how to smile, exactly how to make you feel special. But Machiavelli warned about appearances. He understood that power often hides behind performance. And some people become masters of performance. They don't show you who they are. They show you what will work on you. That's a massive difference. Charm becomes dangerous when it stops being genuine and becomes strategic. These people mirror your personality. If you're serious, they become thoughtful. If you're playful, they become fun. If you're ambitious, they talk about success. It feels magical. Like, this person gets me. But often, they are simply reflecting you back to yourself. Why? Because familiarity builds trust. And trust lowers defenses. Once your defenses are down, influence becomes easier. This is why some of the most dangerous manipulators are highly likable. People defend them. No way. He's such a nice guy. She's too sweet to do that. Exactly. That's the shield. Charm protects reputation. And reputation protects manipulation. Even when victims speak up, nobody believes them. Because the manipulator's image is too strong. That's what makes weaponized charm terrifying. It doesn't just deceive the victim. It recruits everyone around them. Suddenly, you're not fighting one manipulator. You are fighting everyone who believes their mask. Watch for this pattern. Someone who seems perfect in public, but very different in private. Public warmth. Private cruelty. Public kindness. Private control. Public charm. Private darkness. That split is one of the strongest signs of hidden evil. Because masks require audiences. And now, the fifth and final behavior may be the most unsettling of all. The fifth chilling behavior. They never truly reveal themselves. This is the deepest layer of hidden evil. Because the most dangerous people understand one terrifying truth: mystery creates power. The less people know about you, the harder you are to predict. The harder you are to predict, the easier it is to control situations. Machiavelli respected secrecy, not because secrecy is always evil, but because concealed intentions create strategic advantage. And hidden evil thrives in concealment. Have you ever met someone who somehow knows everything about everyone, but nobody knows much about them? Think carefully. They ask questions. They gather information. They listen more than they speak. But when the conversation turns toward them, they redirect. Smoothly. Effortlessly. You walk away feeling like you had a deep conversation. Yet strangely, you learned almost nothing real about them. That is not always accidental. Sometimes it is deliberate psychological positioning. Information imbalance creates power imbalance. If they know your emotional triggers, fears, habits, ambitions, and weaknesses, while you know almost nothing about their true motives, who holds the power? They do. And this hidden distance serves another purpose. Plausible deniability. If things go wrong, they can change masks instantly. Different people know different versions of them. To one person, they're humble. To another, ruthless. To another, innocent. To another, charming. This makes confrontation nearly impossible. Because when victims compare experiences, nothing matches. Everyone saw a different mask. And that confusion protects the manipulator. This is why some dangerous individuals can operate for years without exposure. They are social shapeshifters. Not fake in obvious ways. Fake in sophisticated ways. Their identity becomes fluid, adaptive, strategic, whatever benefits them in the moment. The disturbing part? Many people admire this. They call it intelligence. They call it social skill. They call it charisma. Sometimes it is. But sometimes, it is camouflage. And camouflage becomes terrifying when paired with ambition. Because now you are dealing with someone who can hide intent while moving toward power. That combination has destroyed empire, families, friendships, and lives. But there's something even darker. The truly dangerous person doesn't just hide from others. Sometimes, they've hidden from themselves. This is where dark psychology becomes unsettling. Not all evil looks consciously evil. Some people justify everything. They never think, I'm manipulating. Instead they think, I'm doing what's necessary. They never think, I'm cruel. They think, they deserved it. They never think, I'm controlling. They think, I'm protecting myself. And that is terrifying. Because self-justified evil has no brakes. A person who knows they're evil may hesitate. A person who believes they're right can become merciless. History proves this again and again. The worst destruction often comes from people who feel completely justified. That's why awareness matters. Because evil rarely introduces itself as evil. It comes disguised as logic, as charm, as love, as concern, as leadership. And if you cannot see beneath appearances, you become vulnerable. But there's another question we need to explore. A very uncomfortable one. What if hidden evil isn't only outside you? What if traces of it exist inside every human being? Machiavelli forced people to confront uncomfortable truths about human nature. He understood something most people avoid. Humans are not purely good. Under pressure, under fear, under desire for power, even ordinary people can become dangerous. That includes intelligent people, kind people, disciplined people, even you, even me. That's why this topic matters so much. Because the goal isn't just learning how to detect evil in others. It's learning to recognize darkness before it grows inside yourself. Ask yourself honestly, do you ever hide your true intentions? Do you ever manipulate emotions to get what you want? Do you ever use silence, charm, or guilt as weapons? These questions are uncomfortable, but self-awareness is protection. The people most vulnerable to darkness are usually the ones convinced they could never become dark. And this brings us to an even deeper psychological truth. Not all darkness should be destroyed. Some darkness, when controlled, becomes strength. Think about it. Your aggression can become discipline. Your anger can become boundaries. Your ambition can become power. Your darkness, when mastered, stops being poison and becomes armor. That is where psychological maturity begins. Not in pretending darkness doesn't exist, but in understanding it, mastering it, controlling it. Because if you refuse to confront darkness, your darkness controls you. And if you fail to recognize darkness in others, their darkness may control you too. There's still one final layer to this discussion. The layer most people never talk about. The silent signals hidden evil reveals before words are ever spoken, before a manipulator speaks, before betrayal happens, before the mask slips. There are signals. Small ones, quiet ones, Signals most people ignore because they seem insignificant. But they aren't. Your mind may miss them. Your instincts usually don't. This is why people often say things like, I had a bad feeling from the start. Something felt off, but I ignored it. I can't explain it. I just didn't trust them. That feeling matters. Your subconscious notices micro behaviors long before your conscious mind builds a logical explanation. Tiny pauses, forced smiles, cold eye contact, inconsistent emotional reactions, subtle contradictions. Your nervous system processes all of it. And sometimes it sends you a warning. Discomfort, tension, unease. Pay attention to that. Because hidden evil often leaks through tiny fractures in the mask. One major signal: they enjoy power imbalances. This is extremely important. Watch how someone behaves around people weaker than them. Not around powerful people. That tells you very little. Most people behave well around those who can benefit or punish them. The real test is this: how do they treat someone who offers them nothing? A waiter, a child, an intern, a struggling friend, an animal. Machiavelli understood hierarchy deeply. He knew power reveals character. Give someone power, and hidden traits surface. A person with concealed cruelty often behaves differently the moment they feel superior. Their tone changes. Patience disappears. Respect vanishes. Compassion shrinks. Suddenly they become sharp, dismissive, or controlling. Why? Because dominance feels rewarding to them. They enjoy control. And power gives them permission to express impulses they usually suppress. That's why observing status-based behavior is so revealing. Do they only respect strength? Do they only admire winners? Do they become cold toward weakness? These are not small details. They reveal worldview. Another silent signal. They subtly test boundaries. This is how manipulation often begins. Not with major violations. With tiny ones. Very tiny. A joke that crosses the line. An insult disguised as humor. A small lie. A broken promise. An invasion of privacy. Then they watch. How do you respond? Do you tolerate it? Do you confront it? Do you minimize it? This is data collection. They're measuring resistance. Imagine a thief checking if a door is locked. That's what boundary testing is. They push lightly first. If you say nothing, they push further, then further, then further, until one day you realize something horrifying. Your boundaries disappeared gradually, not overnight. That's why early detection matters. Because manipulation often grows like poison in water. Drop by drop. Almost invisible. Until the entire system is contaminated. And then there's one signal that many people completely miss. They seem addicted to winning. Not succeeding. Winning. There's a difference. Healthy people enjoy achievement. Toxic people obsess over dominance. For them, life becomes a psychological battlefield. Every disagreement becomes competition. Every conversation becomes strategy. Every interaction becomes hierarchy. Who's stronger? Who has leverage? Who controls the frame? Even love becomes power. Even friendship becomes negotiation. Even kindness becomes transaction. That mindset is dangerous because connection becomes impossible. Why? Because genuine connection requires vulnerability. And vulnerability feels like weakness to someone obsessed with control. So instead of bonding, they calculate. Instead of loving, they manage. Instead of trusting, they strategize. And over time, everything becomes manipulation. Even silence. Even generosity. Even affection. Everything has an angle. Everything has a purpose. Nothing is innocent. Now here's the truly unsettling question. Why are some people drawn toward these individuals? Why do intelligent, capable people still get trapped? Because hidden evil rarely attracts through fear first. It attracts through desire. That's the key. Manipulators often give you something you desperately want. Attention, validation, romance, status, opportunity, belonging. They sense hunger. And hunger creates blindness. When you deeply want something, your standards weaken. Red flags start looking gray. Warnings feel inconvenient. Instincts get overridden by desire. That's why self-awareness is protection. The better you understand your own emotional hunger, the harder it becomes for someone to weaponize it. Ask yourself, what do I crave so badly that I might ignore danger to get it? Approval? Wow? Success? Recognition? Power? That answer matters more than you think. Because hidden evil often enters through unmet desire. And there's an even darker truth. Sometimes manipulative people don't need to lie much. Sometimes, people lie to themselves for them. That's how powerful denial can be. The mind protects emotional attachment. If accepting truth means losing someone you love, admire, or depend on, Many people unconsciously reject truth. They rationalize, defend, minimize, excuse, until the damage becomes impossible to ignore. And by then, the cost is often enormous. But there's still something deeper we need to uncover. Something Machiavelli understood at the core of power. The relationship between fear and control. Fear. This is where the conversation becomes truly dark. Because if desire opens the door, fear locks it from the inside. Machiavelli said something chilling. It is safer to be feared than loved, if one cannot be both. Listen that carefully. Feared, not hated. There is a difference. Hatred creates rebellion. Fear creates obedience. And people with hidden evil understand this distinction with terrifying precision. They don't always try to destroy you. Sometimes, they simply want you afraid enough to never resist. Afraid to speak. Afraid to question. Afraid to leave. Afraid to expose them. That fear may not look dramatic. No screaming. No violence. No obvious threats. Sometimes fear is invisible. Psychological. Quiet. A single look. A subtle shift in tone. A long silence after you say something they dislike. And suddenly, your body reacts. Your chest tightens. Your thoughts slow. Your instincts whisper, careful. That whisper matters. Because the most dangerous control is the kind that doesn't need force. It lives inside your nervous system. You start censoring yourself automatically. Without being told. Without being ordered. Without realizing. You stop saying certain things. Stop asking difficult questions. Stop expressing real emotions. Stop being fully yourself. Why? Because some part of you learned, authenticity feels unsafe around this person. And that is terrifying. Because once fear enters a relationship, truth begins to die. Slowly. Silently. First you hide opinions. Then emotions. Then needs. Then boundaries. And one day, you look in the mirror and feel something deeply unsettling. You no longer recognize yourself. That's what hidden evil often steals first. Not your freedom. Your identity. Because identity is the core of resistance. A person who knows who they are is hard to control. A person disconnected from themselves becomes easy to shape. This is why advanced manipulators don't always attack directly. They erode. Like water against stone. Drop by drop. Comment by comment. Silence by silence. Until your inner certainty collapses. But now, we enter the darkest territory. The shadows behind the mask. Because some people don't merely manipulate. They feed. Not physically. Psychologically. They feed on reactions. Your anger. Your fear. Your tears. Your desperation. Ever notice how certain people seem strangely energized after chaos? After conflict, you feel drained. Exhausted. Mentally shattered. Yet they appear calm. Sometimes even satisfied. That's not your imagination. For some personalities, emotional control over others creates stimulation. Power becomes intoxicating. Not money. Not success. Power over human emotion. Power over your state. Power over your mind. That is their drug. And once someone gets addicted to control, normal relationships feel boring. Healthy communication feels weak. Peace feels empty. So they unconsciously create turbulence. Drama. Confusion. Tension. Why? Because chaos gives them something priceless. Influence. In chaos, people seek direction. And manipulators love becoming the center of emotional gravity. But here is where it gets darker. Much darker. The most dangerous manipulators don't want obedience alone. Obedience is basic. They want something more disturbing. Internal colonization. They want to live inside your head. Think about that. Even when they are absent, they remain present. You hear their voice in your mind. You predict their reactions. You make decisions based on what they would approve. You fear disappointing them, even when they aren't there. That means control has reached a horrifying level. They no longer need physical presence. Their influence became psychological architecture. They build themselves into your inner world. And once that happens, escape becomes complicated. Because now the prison isn't outside. It's inside. You carry the cage with you. And many never realize this is happening. They call it loyalty, love, respect, duty. But underneath, it may be conditioning. Machiavelli understood the ultimate form of power. The greatest ruler is not the one who controls bodies. It is the one who controls perception. Because perception shapes reality. Control perception, and you control behavior. Control behavior, and eventually you shape destiny. Now here's something almost nobody talks about. Hidden evil often reveals itself in the eyes. Not always literally, but energetically. Have you ever felt someone looking at you, and sensed something cold behind the smile? The expression seems right. The words seem right. Everything appears normal. Yet something feels off. As if the soul and the face aren't aligned. That feeling can be deeply unsettling. Predators, psychological or physical, often possess unusual observational intensity. They scan, assess, measure. Their attention doesn't feel warm. It feels surgical, like they're trying to see where to cut. Most people ignore this because they fear appearing paranoid. But intuition evolved for survival. Your instincts were not designed to make you socially polite. They were designed to keep you alive. And sometimes, the body recognizes danger before the mind allows truth. That's why hidden evil feels so disturbing. Because on the surface, nothing is wrong. Yet deep inside, something is screaming, run. But there is one final psychological abyss we must explore. The darkest possibility of all. What if the person hiding evil has become so good at wearing the mask that even they no longer know where the mask ends and the real self begins? Think about that for a moment. What happens when someone wears a mask for so long that the mask becomes their identity? This is the final stage. The most terrifying stage. Because now you are no longer dealing with someone who consciously pretends. You are dealing with someone who has merged with the performance. The lie became personality. The manipulation became instinct. The mask became the face. And that kind of darkness is extraordinarily difficult to detect. Why? Because contradiction disappears. There is no guilt, no hesitation, no visible internal conflict. They don't look fake, because, in their mind, they aren't faking anymore. They believe their own narrative. And that is what makes them terrifying. A conscious liar slips. An unconscious liar can appear authentic. That's why some of the most dangerous people feel incredibly convincing. Their confidence feels real. Their emotions look real. Their words sound real. Because to them, it is real. At least in that moment. They've learned to reshape truth itself. Not just for others. For themselves. This is where Machiavelli's philosophy becomes chillingly relevant. Power changes people. But sometimes, the pursuit of power erases people. Piece by piece. First, they justify small manipulations. It's necessary. Then bigger ones. They deserved it. Then cruelty. This is how the world works. And eventually, conscience becomes weaker. Silence becomes easier. Empathy becomes optional. Control becomes everything. And here lies the darkest truth of all. Hidden evil is not always born. Sometimes, it is built. Built through repeated choices. Built through ego. Built through unchecked desire. Built through the refusal to face one's own darkness. That is why this video is not just about spotting dangerous people. It is about protection, awareness, consciousness. Because once you can see the patterns, you stop becoming easy prey. You notice the fake charm. You notice the subtle manipulation. You notice the power games. You notice the emotional coldness. And most importantly, you stop betraying your own instincts. Never ignore that quiet voice inside you. That subtle discomfort. That strange unease. That unexplained tension around certain people. Sometimes logic arrives late. Instinct arrives first. And if this video taught you anything, let it be this. Not everyone who smiles at you wishes you well. Not everyone who helps you cares about you. Not everyone who loves you is safe. Judge less by words. Observe more through patterns. Because patterns reveal character. Always. And remember this final line from Machiavellian psychology. Fear the enemy who announces war. But fear far more the enemy who sits beside you, learns your weaknesses, wins your trust, and waits. Silently, patiently, for the perfect moment. So tell me in the comments, which of these 5 chilling behaviors shocked you the most? And have you ever met someone who showed these signs? I want you to write it below. Not only because your story matters, but because someone reading your comment may finally recognize the darkness in their own life. And if this video made you uncomfortable, good. That means you saw something real. Most people avoid uncomfortable truths. But the people who become mentally powerful are the ones willing to stare into darkness without blinking. If you want more deep dark psychology, Machiavellian insights, mysterious human behavior analysis, and powerful videos that expose the hidden truths most people never talk about, subscribe to ZIDDIV right now. Because on this channel, we don't give surface level motivation. We uncover the psychology behind power, manipulation, attraction, discipline, and human nature. And trust me, the next video will go even deeper. Much deeper. So subscribe now before you forget. Like this video if it blew your mind. Because every like tells me you want more content like this. And share this video with one person, just one, who needs to see behind the masks around them. Sometimes one video, at the right time, can save someone from years of manipulation. I'll see you in the next one. Until then, observe carefully, trust patterns, and remember, the most dangerous monsters really look like monsters.